put your hand up if you don't know who we are as Attention Seeker. Just Sam. A couple people. Okay, I just want to know how many people who don't know so I can give more context. Okay, there's a few. Cool. Okay, so my name's Stanley. I'm the founder of the Attention Seeker with my wife Claire somewhere. I don't know where she is. And really my job tonight is just to set a scene for everyone. So we've got two other speakers on tonight who are shitting themselves. They've shat themselves a few times already. And my job is to set the scene for them, okay? To make sure that when they come up, there's some context to what they're going to talk about so you can understand a little bit. So my talk's not going to be so, usually when I get asked to speak, my goal is always, can I get people to cry? And if I can get you to cry, I've done a really good job, right? So I take you on this emotional roller coaster, you start crying, I tell you something, I talk about Claire being my mentor in life and do all this sort of stuff, and then everyone's like, oh, that's so cute, and then they cry. Today's not that job. Today's just to set a scene so that my staff can come up here and do what they do best and talk about the things that they are experts in, okay? So I'm not going to try to steal any limelight of that, I'm just going to try to set a scene for you, okay? If you have questions at the end of my conversation, still ask them. I might defer the answer and say, trust me, it'll be answered. If you ask me something I know will come up next, okay? Other than that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we think as the attention seeker. So that's how we're going to set the scene. So, first of all, this is us. This is our team, or most of them. There's a couple of people missing because we grow too fast and I can't get their pictures in it fast enough. But we're a team of about 27 or something now, 28. We've got, I don't know, 10 interns at this point. I can't even keep up with how many there are, and a bunch of freelancers and contractors around. And we're into our 5th year of business. And it's been this crazy journey that we've been on. And most of it's come from having a real clear vision of what our brand is and what we're trying to do. And so by doing that, we're able to then repeat it for our customers. And that's all we do. We don't try to be any rocket science. We just go, let's go try some stuff, see if it works from a brand perspective, and if it does, sell it. Right? And so our whole journey's just been that, just doing a lot of that. And when I think of brand, this is going to play out with me all night. Alicia always promised me that she's got it fixed, and then I screw it up. There we go, look at that. When I think of brand, there's a few ways I think about it. So it started off in history, a lot of time like you'll have these single products that started to be marketed, right? And so you'd have things like Coca-Cola. And so Coca-Cola, who doesn't know what Coca-Cola is? If anyone puts their hand up, where the hell have you been? Just now, that's probably typical. Coca-Cola, right? It's a big brand. The people went out to market with it, talked all up about how great it is, and put a lot of money behind it and brand. And now it's one of the most recognizable brands in the world. And that was how a lot of marketing and branding was done for a long time, until you have these things that became a house of brands. And for me, one of the easiest ones that I think of, and maybe because I'm a fatty, is McDonald's. And like McDonald's is a brand itself, but it's also a house of brands, right? Like what are the brands underneath McDonald's? Filet-O-Fish? What else? McRib, yeah, sure. Big Mac, yeah, all those things, right? Those are all brands in themselves, they're all their own products. And so they started to market themselves as a company that has a whole bunch of brands underneath it. And then in recent years, maybe, I don't know, almost 2 decades now maybe, I don't know, this thing of personal brand came about. And it was no longer the McDonald's, it was the guy who started the McDonald's, right? So they started to become really famous, and they started to drive a lot of the conversation. And maybe the most famous of sorts recently is the guy who owns this one, right? We all know who I'm talking about? Yeah, Elon Musk. Yeah, so he's got a whole bunch of brands. And look, I put up this one because it's a bit of a piss take. Who knows whether or not this is going to be a success or not? I kind of think he will pull it off because he's just that crazy. But everything he puts his name to ends up usually succeeding. Because of his brand being so big, love him or hate him, a lot of people love him. And they'll follow him to the ends of the earth for whatever he does. So his personal brand's so strong, he can build a car company and outvalue all the rest of them in like what, a decade, right? And so this personal brand became real powerful, and a lot of people still kind of think that that's where we are. Like we've built a whole business on helping people build their personal brands, right? But I kind of feel like we've kind of moved on from that. I kind of think we've moved on 2 stages, but I'm not going to get too ahead of yourselves because I might lose everyone. But I think that there's this idea of team brands that's even bigger. And the only example that I've got for you right now is us. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're the CEO of a huge company, or just the CEO of any company, right, actually, your peer group isn't very big as that person. There's far more mid-management, frontline sorts of people in the world than there are CEOs and business owners. So you don't have as big an audience who can relate to you as what this mid-management does. Yeah? And so as a company, we've tried our best and give the most opportunity we can, given the budget constraints that a small business has, to help our team also grow their brands as big as possible. We try to build a culture for it, and we try to give what resources we can. Most of you, if you know us, you probably also know Joni's face. But you also will know, like I'll talk to people and they're like, yeah, we know Carter. Of course we know Carter from your content. Or they know Soggy Kebab, because who doesn't know Soggy Kebab? But we have these team brands, and we've built this team brand that allows more and more people to be relatable, or find us relatable, right? Some people connect better with me, some will connect better with Joni, some will really connect with my wife Claire, because I'm the crazy founder visionary, and Claire's that entrepreneur's wife. And that's a whole thing too for people to understand, that the entrepreneur's wife is also the person who has to pick up the pieces when they burn shit down. So we've got this whole relatable piece. So that's kind of where I think brands are moving. I think that the personal brand area, all the areas that have come before it are still important, they're still relevant, but now there's this opportunity for teams to do bigger things. And so that's kind of the premise I'm trying to set, that there's more than one brand. That was Coke. You didn't have a house of products yet, it was product marketing. And then we went into, well, okay, now I've got this cool founder, Jeff Bezos, is a billionaire, I'm going to talk about him and make people want him. And then our thought is like, okay, well, how can we then create a thing where we've got a bunch of people that everyone in the world can relate to? Because a lot of marketing and a lot of brand work is about this relatability piece, right? Do I see myself in this brand? And we're trying to help people see themselves in every layer of our brand. Make sense? Any questions about that? Anyone think I'm full of shit? I mean, you can. Some of my team think I'm full of shit. So this is us, right? Like this is only some of it, of our brands, of what the way we think of it. And it's like we've got podcasts, we've got like our attention seeker TikTok, we've got all our staff brands, our personal brands. We've got different things on Twitter. I mean, I don't even know what happens here. The guys, Jillian in Chicago just like pumps out 35 bits. Like she's insane. Like Jillian just pumps out 35 bits. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, you're missing out. Like it is absolute gold on there. Well, no one follows us on Twitter. It's the same thing goes on our, which way am I going? On Threads. Threads is a little better. There's like 11,000 there. But that's, like this whole thing, it's allowing our whole team to showcase different personalities, different brands, and that we have these different pockets of audience who all like us from a different way, right? So we like are able to talk to so many more people because we're not just trying to be one thing, right? We're trying to be this whole collective, crazy, do cool shit brand up here as attention seeker. But as it filters down from that single-minded proposition, we can do and talk to other people different ways. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's sort of the concept I'm trying to get across today at my talk, so it can set the scene. That all these different brands that we have, which are all different on all different platforms, all speak and say different things. And the way I think about it, which everyone on my team then gets confused, is that they're TV shows. I think of like Attention Seeker as Warner Bros. And this is all the shows or movies that they make. That's kind of how I think about it. And each piece of content's a new episode. That analogy works really well for me. And then I was in a room the other day with a client, and Joni and Caitlin, and I had everyone confused. There's no one. So if you're all confused, don't worry, you're not alone. Okay. Who knows this brand? Is anyone from this brand here? No. Because it'd be good. That was good because they can't call me out for being wrong. Okay, so who does it? Who knows you know? Put your hand up. Okay, cool, a bunch of them. So the reason I like to talk about this brand is I think they've done, and I don't know if they intentionally did it because, I mean, Joe and I have been trying to catch up for a coffee for a long time, but they've done something really interesting which, if they did do it intentionally, fuck, they're geniuses, and if they didn't, they nailed it, right? And that is that they have the clothing, which is their company and what they sell. And there's obviously a personal brand above that, Joe himself, but mostly Stan Walker, right? Like, he's behind it, his brand that he has. But then they got the morning shift show. Do we all know about the morning shift? Yeah. Does everyone know that it's Yeah? Put your hand up if you didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Okay. See, so they've not really told anyone that it's except there's little footnotes. But if you go searching through the comments on this show, which is, I think it's got 1 million followers across this in Instagram, the comments are just like, what is that blue jersey? What blue jersey is he wearing? What is that t-shirt that guy's got on? Because all they do is wear clothing the whole time. And then they've got this private members group on Facebook. All right, 45,000 private members that they can talk to directly on Facebook anytime they want, who are engaged with what they do. And recently did a 660 pre-sale and sold out instantly through this 45k members. Just sold out all their allocation in like, what was it, Cleo? Like seconds? Yeah. Minutes? Seconds,
10
right?
seconds.
10 seconds, just like wiped out their whole allocation because of how engaged these people are. So the point of my story here is that here's a brand, a small little clothing brand in New Zealand, who's decided that not that many people like to look at pictures of hoodies. So why don't we go and create a TV show that people will watch and we own, so we control all the narrative, and then we deck them all out in our gear. And so you have these big brands that go out and sponsor news presenters or celebrities or football stars or whatever it might be, trying to put their gear in them. And these guys are like, why don't we just own them? Why don't we just create the show ourselves? All right, so they built this huge brand. It now drives a whole bunch of people into the clothing brand. But it's also, if you've watched these guys' story, they're now getting paid to run this. They got sponsorship deals. So they're now about to turn their marketing arm into a revenue center. So the thing that drives all the business is now driving them revenue as well. And it'll quickly be a zero cost department, right? So how many people as marketing people argue with budgets? Right, with the people, yeah, like everyone does. And if you don't, you're lying. Right? That's just how it is. Like, budgets are always a thing. And if you're a small business owner, how many people, we don't have the budget for that right now, right? Well, what if your marketing department just had its own budget because it generated its own revenue? And that's what these guys have now. They've started to be sponsored by other people, right? So this is the first taste of like a New Zealand company who's done this really well, who have gone, you know what? We've got this whole team. Let's showcase them in multiple ways. And they've done it really successful. We took like a complete scattergun approach. We're just trying to figure shit out. These guys just went all in on one thing and dominated it, right? And when we work with brands, that's like we sort of take them, just do one thing and just fucking nail it. And just go all in on it. Another good example of this is this company, Old Spice. Who doesn't know Old Spice? Couple people, same people who don't know us. No, I'm just joking. So Old Spice, I mean, they've been around forever. Most people will know about like their refresh that they did, where they came out and they started targeting a younger audience. They started doing these really funny, comedic sort of advertising. They got a lot of famous people to do them, and they just made absolute comedy. Like, it was so funny, and then they pretty much reinvented their whole brand, and they stole the market. But why I brought them up, they take it a little bit of a different approach. They have their main channel, so TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And there's some cross-posting of content, but actually they've got like these very unique propositions in each one. So there's a reason to follow them everywhere. They have like a very good reason to follow them on YouTube and on TikTok. There's different reasons to go there. There's different shows, right? Does that make sense? So they've like really like got all these people. Their team isn't their staff. They've built their team in influencers. I mean, I think it's maybe Procter & Gamble or something, right? It's like a big company, so it's a little bit different. But they've gone and got all these celebrities and all these people to be part of their team, and they built these brands around them. But then they own the channel that they sit on. They're not just like pushing them all out to other people. They own their channels. to grow their brand. And they're giving people entertaining content they can come back and watch. If you go through this, even when they're doing a product ad, who's watched their ads before? Like, they're not ads, right? They're like complete comedy. They're complete stories. They just make a TV show, they release it, and they push it out. So there's a whole bunch of brands doing it, and then there's these guys. And these like so blurry when it's that big. Okay, so there's a bunch of people on there. There's obviously the Kardashians who are probably king at this sort of world. But there's also these guys, and I picked the bottom group. So we've got Emma Chamberlain, Logan Paul, Mr. Beast, KSI from Sidemen, and Rachel Dillon. And each of these guys have done a similar thing, where they've built these massive empires of business off the back of the fact that they're YouTubers, influencers, or whatever it might be. But they didn't just stop at building one big brand and then selling merch. You know, they've started to build real businesses below them. And it's kind of like, if we take someone like Mr. Beast, underneath him, he has this whole team underneath him now. And then they've got a bunch of family of brands. And so they just keep cascading down to all this other stuff. He's got like, I don't know, 25 YouTube channels or something like that. It's crazy how many things that they own. And then they've got like Feastables and all the stuff that they do. So I guess my point is that if we're not, as a brand, deciding to do this, these guys are going to do it anyway, and they're going to come steal everything from you. So these guys already know it works. They already know to create every person in their team, turn them into brands, and then they're going out and creating commodities that take everything from you. Like Mr. Beast will probably destroy Hershey's with how he's going with Feastables. You know, like this is what they're doing. So if your brand isn't doing it, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do it. These guys will come and take everything off you anyway. So you kind of have a choice, and it's happening already. So what can you do? So I'm going to speed through this a bit because I think some of the stuff that I'm going to say, the girls are going to say. So I won't go into too much, but I'll tell you about a quick case study to sort of wrap it up. So we just recently launched with a client called Hairification. We decided to create a TV show with them. This is one-off thing that we did as part of a larger thing, but to start with, we had to build the first TV show. So we had our actress, we had our talent. She did this stupid not washing her hair for every day, get $100, went super viral, became acquisition content. And then she did all this other stuff around it to own a conversation, which was hair care, okay? And then between that, they went from 14,000 to 106, 107,000 in about 30 days, 31 days. And I think there was like 50 million views. And the point of telling the story is that we went in with this, going, just have one TV show. Just go real solid, because this is the first thing that they've done. They're pretty new to the market. Build that first. Now we have a TV show with a host, who's one of the team, not the founder, just actually a UGC creator that we've hired in to do the thing. She's now part of the team. And we're able to create their first TV show that millions and millions of people have been following along for, to the point where like she ended up on the Edge breakfast show in New Zealand because of how far the reach went. So people, it caused a lot of buzz because she didn't wash her hair for 31 days and wore a pot on her head. That was fun. Don't ask why it works, it just does. Anyway. So to talk about that is a simple concept of three things. So brand positioning, what does your brand stand for? Do you have a brand positioning? What's your single-minded proposition? And be real rock solid on that. Because if you're going to go do all these other TV shows and all this other crazy shit, if it doesn't all ladder back to that, it'll be misguided. People won't understand it. If we go back to the morning shift, the way those two brands sit next to each other, you can see how they interrelate. You can see that they got the same sort of feel. The same demographic will watch the morning shift will also buy you directly, right? So having a real strong brand positioning and understanding what that is, if you can get it down to a single sentence, fantastic. Understanding who your audience is. So who is that? Who are you speaking to with that single-minded proposition? And also, how many audiences do you have? Because if you've got multiple audiences, you can't speak to them all one way. Right? You need multiple channels. Make sense? Yep. And then lastly, the hardest piece is what conversation do you want to own? So what is the conversation you want to own? In the hairification example, it was hair care. The way we designed the content was so that the people in the comments were talking about hair care. They were asking about hair care. They were giving their advice on hair care. They were all talking hair care. So now they're the trusted place for hair care conversation. And then what do they sell? Oh, they happen to sell hair care, right? Shampoo. So three things: brand positioning, audience, and what conversation do you want to own? Those are sort of the three things that I would look at when trying to figure this out. There's much more that you have to go on to do this. Hopefully the guys will add some form of context to it, but if not, watch our 20,000 channels that we have and you might learn a little bit more. Cool. That's it. Questions? Or should I let someone else come and speak? Yes, Sam?
Can you chat about how like celebrity ladders down to personal brand from like a Stan Walker perspective?
How does celebrity ladder down to personal brand? Okay. In the sense that how like becoming a celebrity, it builds your personal brand? Is that what you mean? Okay, well, there is this thing of like Kiwis don't like the limelight. Like there's a narrative in New Zealand that like people don't like to put themselves out there and build a brand for themselves and a personal brand. And then we look at celebrities and you think, oh, like they can do that because that's Stan Walker. Like he can do it, I couldn't do it. But the thing is that Stan Walker just went out to the world with some content every single day, which was his music, and people liked it, and then they followed along, and then he built a brand. And now with that personal brand, he's able to do all these other things. And the fact that he knows so many people, well, I should say this stuff. The fact that so many people know who Stan Walker is, and when I say his name or play his music, people know him, means that because of this large catchment of people that he's talking to all the time, when he goes to use his personal brand for any endeavor, he can speak to the actual people he wants to speak to straight away. So the problem is for a lot of us, like, we're like, oh, I don't need anyone to know, I just need my little crew. But your little crew might be like 10,000 people. But to have those 10,000 people hear you, you need to speak to 1 million people. You'll never find the 10,000, just the 10,000. And if the only way to do it is to pay to speak to them. And we all know that if you pay to speak to them, they're going to stop listening eventually, right? So the best way to speak to them is to speak to so many people. So the best personal brands, like Elon Musk, like Sam Walker, if we were to use him, is the ones with the massive fame, the celebrity status level. They have everyone knows them, and then a select audience loves them. And that's the only audience they care about. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Any others? Yeah.
I'll go for it. You were talking about creating a channel, your own channel where you control the narrative, you don't have to depend on third parties. I've had that sort of idea or project a few times, but there are a lot of challenges. You want to start, you get a lot of buy-in, and you have content that people want to consume. What are the key things that you need to do right for it to stick?
To build your own audience. It's these three things I just had, right? It really is. Like, a lot of people will be like talking to me about what's the right trend or what's the right video or whatever. And like, at the end of the day, the type of content you make doesn't really matter. It's if you answered these properly. Like if you don't have this proper, and there's a few other things, but these for me are probably three of the biggest ones. Because all that is really is content, right? It's like that's conversation is what's the conversation, what's the content. But if you don't know what your brand is, if you don't have a real good brand positioning and understand what it is you're trying to communicate, what your single-minded proposition is, and then you don't know who you're saying that to, and then you don't have the conversation right for them, it doesn't matter how slick your content is, how good a copywriter you are, how cool photos you do, it doesn't matter. You'll lose them. Like if you watch any of our content, none of it's high quality. Like none of it's high quality. But across our socials, I mean, there's 2.7 million people following us. So it just and we know that because as part of our business, it's to be real agile, and we're trying to learn like what it is, so that when we go to a client, we go, we don't need to try as much. Like here's what we do. But like without trying to say why we're such shit quality content. But so I think like when you're saying that stuff, like what are the things? If you have that and you speak to it right, you can do what we like the hairification result that we had. 31 days, 100,000 followers, 50 million views, all organic. That's not unusual for us because we do this bit, right? And like when we work with clients, like we'll say to them, it's like a 6 to 8 week onboarding. We don't know this, we can't work with you. And they're like, oh, can you speed it up? We can, but it's going to fuck it up and then you're going to waste all your money. I'll still take it, but you're the one who loses, it's not me. So don't rush this, like really understand this right. And when you launch from like a really good start pad, not only do you have better success, like your content creators, and in our case with our clients, my team, are more engaged to make the content too. Like you can see when my team know it's going. Like you can see when they know this is all aligned. Like they get excited by it. They get a little pep in the step and like, this is gonna fucking crush. And then they put it out and then it goes off. And they're like, see, I told you. But when you go on with a real shit base and like, we didn't do the strategy properly, no chance. Like absolutely no chance. Yeah. Good question.
What are your thoughts on personal brand versus company brand? You mentioned some of your staff, that intern, shout out. What, I guess, is that her brand or is that the company brand?
So in terms of our team's personal brands, in our company at least, they own all of that. It's theirs. We put in a lot of resources and time and coaching to help them do it. And we try to create a culture at least that our team want to make their brands part of this larger brand. So that's part of it. But at the end of the day, they don't have to. I think that if you're going to, if you're wanting to do a team brand approach, I mean, there's personal brand for founder. That's a different thing. If the founder doesn't want to put their personal brand to it, why the hell did you start being a founder in the first place? But like, if you're a team brand and you're a leader trying to get your team to do this, like you have no power in telling them to do it. Like I can't force my guys to do it. I set them challenges and I know that if I tell Dania she can't do it, she'll make everyone do it because she's so competitive. So that's like, you've got to create a culture of this stuff where you can make your team get into it. Yeah, see, she knows. And then like in Joni's case as an example, well, she came in with a brand bigger than ours when she started with us already. So she was already an influencer, if you would, when she started. And so part of our goal with that, like what it's always been with Joni, is like how do we help Joni be a better creator herself so she can make better content for herself. And most of that isn't about necessarily being a better creator, but like, I mean, she might tell you herself, but it's about her just being able to departmentalize her brand, company brand, things like that. So that's a big challenge for a lot of staff. My advice is if you're a company trying to get your team to do this, you can't force them. You need to build a culture to do it. Like there's no way. My guys wouldn't do it if they didn't want it. They'd just flip me a bird and tell me to fuck off, you know? But they're also, I think we've built a culture of like, we're called the attention seeker for fuck's sake. Like if you come and work here and you don't want to put yourself in front of everyone, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, not all the team is as excited as the others, but like, so we've built a culture, right? I think it's the best way to do it if you're trying to do it. And my advice is I definitely think that it's better than having just a company brand. Because all a company is a bunch of people doing the same thing. So why not just showcase that? Right? That's about, for me personally, that's my viewpoint on it. Any others? Cool. All right.